On today's episode of Greetings from Outer Space, I'm going to show you how to make this shaker card. So the first step to make this card is I'm going to stamp my little ray gun here. I'm going to ink it up with some pigment ink. I've got some black pigment ink here. I always cover the lid just in case I get embossing powder on there. And then I want to stamp my gun, my little ray gun here. And then we're going to emboss this. So I take my embossing powder. I have some black detail embossing powder. And I'm just going to pour this over the image. I like to use quite a bit so that I cover everything. And I also want to make sure that I put the powder back into the jar. There we go. Then let's go ahead and emboss it. And now I want to color this in. I have an orange brush marker here. We just kind of color in the handle and the little back area here. And I also want to use a little mica gloss to kind of paint in. And I'm just going to pick up a little bit of the ink right off the tip here because I don't need a lot. And then just paint over the white area. This adds gold, a little flash of gold, fairly quick. Just a little bit more for the tip of the gun. And then this is just going to take a minute or two to dry. And if I am in a hurry, I can use my heat gun, just like this, to dry it. The next step is to cut out the frame. So what I'm going to do is use my ruler here, and the nice thing about my ruler is it has this grid on it, so I know the dimensions, both horizontal and vertical. So each little line down is 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to kind of center my ruler, and each vertical line is 1/2 an inch. So I'm going to create a 1/2 inch frame. And I just put a mark here, another 1/2 inch here. I turn my card around, measure down 1, 2, 3, 4, and a mark here, and a mark here. Now, once I have that mark on there, I'm going to start cutting. The second half, this other half of my ruler has a steel edge on it. So I can just cut along that edge with my little pen knife here, and I don't have to worry about cutting into the ruler. Turn my card, line up again, and I know this is a 1/2 inch from the edge, so I just come in and stop right on that 1/2 inch mark. And because my paper is really thick, that's why I have to pull the cutting edge twice. And this time I'm not going to come all the way out to this edge because then I'll cut off the bottom of my ray gun. I'm going to stop right at the handle there. Turn it around and then finish this up. I'm going to start at the back end of the ray gun. Let's make sure that everything is all dislodged. The next thing is to stamp my window plastic. I've got this clear sheet of plastic that's heat resistant, and I'm going to use my flower stamp here So I'm just going to stamp this kind of open flower, and then again this little solid flower, and we're going to emboss that with gold embossing powder. So I have this gold twinkle embossing powder, and I just pour this onto the stamped image, and then if there's a lot of glitter that sticks to it, just give it a thunk and that gets the glitter off of the plastic. Put the embossing powder back in my container and set that aside. Now I'm going to heat that. Let's get some of this extra off. Sometimes when you're heating your embossing powder, if you see that the plastic is starting to warp, you pull the heat gun away. Next, I'm going to stamp these little stars. So we're going to emboss with the orange twinkle embossing powder. Okay, you're going to set this aside and we'll use this in a minute. I have another sheet of window plastic, and this is going to create the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my diamond glaze now. And I'm going to create a background by drawing and squiggling with my diamond glaze right onto the plastic. I like adding a lot of dots. Polka dots are fun. And you just let that dry. This will take about 15 minutes to dry. Once it's dry, now I'm going to add a second layer of diamond glaze, and this time we're going to tint it with some dye-based ink. So I just spread that out. I'm going to spread it out with my fingers. It's great because diamond glaze is water-based, and so it cleans up with water while it's still wet. And then I'm going to take my different colors of ink. This is blue, this is salvia blue, and then light purple, kind of fun to watch it spread. And then with my finger, just spread out, this is like finger painting. Spread out the colors, kind of mix it and blend it. And then you could just wipe your finger off with a wet paper towel. And then you're going to leave this on the window plastic and let that dry. And this also takes about 15 minutes to dry. Next, I'm going to assemble my card. So I'm going to use some double-sided tape and put this along the edge of the frame. And I just pull the tape and press it down, lift up a little bit more. And if you get too much of the lead, you just tear it off. And I'm going to actually put a little bit here right onto the ray gun as well. I'm going to take my little flowers here and apply that on the inside of the frame, and so you can kind of see that it looks like the ray gun is shooting out flowers. Because I want to add some glass beads to this, I need to create a little dam or a little well here. So I'm using some double-sided foam tape. And we're going to lay this just along the inside, like this. Peel off another area, and you can snip this with your scissors, but make sure that everything touches, because otherwise your glass beads will fall out of the card. Okay, I'm going to take off the release liner. Take our glass beads, these are fuchsia colored beads, and just pour them in. And then take your clear tinted window and then apply that right over the top of that double-sided foam tape. And now, not only do you have a ray gun that's shooting out flowers, you also have movement with these glass beads.
We hope you're enjoying our Greetings from Outer Space series sponsored by Judikins. Please follow us on social media. Sign up on our website and you're automatically entered to win a prize package full of products from some of our favorite sponsors. And remember, as we always say, when creativity knocks, open the door.